The next pattern that we're going to cover is the betrayed pattern. Now, this is a pattern that business owners who have experienced a betrayal of some sort within their life, probably within their business, but maybe even before they got into business, they have trust issues, and they want to use control to be able to manage the situation. So it's similar to the pattern that we spoke of with the pusher, but it's a bit different in that this pattern usually involves that something where someone has really been burned before in business, and they're really overcompensating for that experience by micromanaging. They are really controlling. It causes issues with team morale. They don't take a lot of time off because of this issue with controlling. There is a lot of overwhelm. They end up doing a lot more work in order to feel comfortable about the people that they're working with and being able to trust them. So they'll take on a lot of the roles themselves. In fact, the betrayed pattern means that there's this real sense of a victimhood almost, where there's, oh, gee, I don't think I can trust anyone to do what needs to be done in my business because this has happened to me before, where I've allowed other people to be involved or other people to have some power over a situation. And in fact, what's ended up happening is I've got burned, and I certainly don't ever want to go back and feel that feeling again. So the betrayal becomes sort of a symbol for I'm going to be strong. I'm not going to let that happen again. And while that pattern is in what we've been calling dysfunctional, what ends up happening is there's not a lot of leeway for other people who may be very trustworthy and never play into this type of pattern. But the business owner, he's going to view, or he's going to see people through the eyes of this betrayed pattern.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the blind spots of the betrayed pattern, and I'm thinking of a client that I used to work with, and he had his own electrical business, and his blind spot really was that he really wasn't able to take the positives in the business and really run with the positives within his staff. He had 20 staff in his electrical business, and because he had this betrayed pattern, it really undermined everything that his staff were doing. There was an expectation that the betrayal was going to happen, and there was an expectation of mistrust. So all the focus of the business owner was placed on the betrayal and all the things that he needed to do to prevent that from happening. And the blind spot was really focusing on the things in the business that he needed to develop to move the business forward. For example, he put one person in leadership, and there was really this sense of mistrust. So rather than expanding on that and finding ways of creating a larger leadership team, because he experienced or was focusing on the betrayal within the one person, there wasn't any scope to go anywhere else. There was no praise, and there was no recognition. And it was almost like the leadership and the staff were teetering on edge with this owner. And obviously for a business, that's going to completely sabotage results and efficiency. And then there was high sick and loads of different outcomes from that betrayal because the focus was so intent on not being burned again.
Yeah, a couple of things come to mind in the whole conversation. I think it's a very interesting one. Big motorbike going past. The first one is that really came to me strongly, as George, especially when Georgina was talking, that trust issues are majorly impactful to business growth, because to build a quality business, certainly one that's profitable, you start to build bigger teams. And that requires, as I think Gad said in one of the earlier pattern trainings, you to surround yourself with experts, surround yourself with people that have expert skills in particular roles. And you do that for good reason, Because if I've got an expert running that department as an example, and I know they're an expert, then I do not have to know or understand anything about that area of the business, other than overviewing it from a metrics perspective, which gives me all the information I need. So by doing that and putting people in those roles, the requirements on me are decreased, as an example, if it's my business. I don't have to worry about it. My key staff's worrying about that. And they've got the expertise to deal with that, so I don't have to worry about that. Okay? And so that creates operational efficiencies, and we start to look at, then we start to develop scale. Now, if that's a key requirement to building a business, this particular pattern will sabotage it every time, because there's no way you can build a business with team members in those respective roles with high expertise. The moment you've got mistrust and it's driving those surface behaviors of micromanaging, as an example, your team are going to feel undermined. So it just can't work. And you're not going to trust their decisions. So again, if you've got the betrayal pattern, you can only have a small business. That's the first thing I could see as an extension of that thinking, right? The moment there's mistrust and you're building a bigger team, you cannot build that bigger team. You might get away with a smaller team, because then you're as a micromanager, you can be there and maybe you can deal with one or two staff. That's the first thing I wanted to say. The other aspect with this mistrust aspect, and Georgina really got me thinking about that, and you, Gab, because the blind spot itself can actually be they don't even know that they're mistrusting. Okay, typically if I work with a client with a betrayed pattern, and if I said to them outright, you don't trust, I think you'll find they go, yes, I do. Okay, because the blind spot, they don't know that they don't know themselves enough, especially on an unconscious level. And they don't know what they're doing, because it's just normal operating pattern for them. The other aspect, that being their blind spot, there's a basic stance which goes, well, even outside of their awareness, I got betrayed once and it hurt really badly, so I'm going to make sure it never happens again. So their entire way of running a business is about not being betrayed again, which automatically closes them off to relationships, to connection, all the people aspects of running the business.
That's right, Perry. And one of the things that can really catch up a business owner with this betrayed pattern is they may think that they have found someone who they can trust most of the time. So, they will have to hire someone on, and they may develop, a certain relationship with someone that they can trust. But the moment that person, something could be off, they could have an issue going on with family, there could be anything that can sort of lift them off their game in the business owner's eyes. And then all of a sudden it's like, see, there it is. I knew I wouldn't be able to trust you. So even if they happen to find someone who can be trusted part of the time, no one's going to be able to be perfect and be able to not trigger that betrayed pattern at some point in time.
Yep, and this comes, by the way, everybody, from what we call the reticular activating system, or what's called confirmation bias. And it means that we tend to only see what aligns with our belief systems, and we dismiss information that doesn't align with our belief system. So as an example, in what Georgina's saying, a business owner may have a strong belief that says, I can't trust anybody, and that's going to look for the small imperfections or for those few signs that person's not trustworthy, and those belief systems will lock onto that and go, see. Okay, something to be very aware of.
There's the evidence of the betrayal, the betrayed pattern.
Yep, which will then trigger the business owner in their patterns and however they deal with someone that they think's betraying them or can't be trusted. And it's usually not pretty. Great. That's the betrayed pattern.